Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a tank spotlight on my fancy goldfish aquarium. So about 2 years ago I had maybe like 3 or 4 smaller 2-foot tanks, and I was wanting to branch out into like the slightly bigger 4-foot kind of range and be able to house fancy goldfish. And my old workplace had a turtle tank that had been lying around the shed for ages. It was about 180 litres, maybe something like that. So with their permission, I took it home, I set it up, and I went to my local aquarium shop and I purchased a Thai calico oranda, whose name is now Mo, and I put it on hold for a week so I could just muck around with the tank and get it kind of the way I wanted it. And then sadly, it cracked. It was like a bow front tank, and right on the front left-hand curve, I think I've got a picture to show you, was a nice crack and all the water just drained out, and it was not a very good experience. But after that happened, I had this goldfish on hold for about a week, and I was like, I need another tank, I need a bigger tank. So thank goodness a lady at work had a tank lying around that she had for about 20 years, she reckoned. It was a 4-foot tank, it holds about 280 litres and is this tank right here. So I brought it home, I filled it up, I set it up, it actually held water, which is the main thing with an aquarium. And then I went and brought home my goldfish. I made some like glass jars for it and put some plants in there. I think I've got some photos for that too. I think I was very diligent with my my record keeping with all my aquarium stuff. So as I go through the video, there should be plenty of photos for you guys to see. But again, it was good. I liked it, but I wanted another goldfish. So I waited a while and I got another, I guess it's called like an orchid tail oranda. He's black, his name is Kubo. And I put him in there with Mo and they get along really well, which was good. But after about maybe like 4 or 5 months, I started to notice that the silicone was really starting to like peel quite badly. And I was having nightmares that I'll come into the room and there'll just be water all on the floor again, and we'll just have a rerun of the first tank. So I decided to set up just a small holding tank for them, for the goldfish. I put them in there, I drained this tank and I cleaned all the silicone. I think I redid the tank stand at that stage as well, like sanded it and varnished it and things. And I left it for about a week just for the silicone to seal. And at that stage, it hadn't really, I hadn't really done much with plants in there, and I definitely wanted more plants because plants just make things so much easier. They purify the water. You can house things like cherry shrimp, which I've got in there at the moment, and plus they just look really nice and make maintenance easier. So while the goldfish was still in another tank, I set up like a rock wall around the front here, and I put different types of plants in there. And with goldfish, it's a bit hit and miss because some really love plants and will eat everything. Some won't touch plants. It just really depends. My guys ended up eating probably a third of the plants in the end, which wasn't too bad. But before I put them in, I just wanted to grow the plants a bit, get them established, get their roots kind of locked into the substrate, so when Mo and Kubo came back in and they're rummaging around, that they won't uproot plants. But sadly, I had this set up for about a day, and then I came in and there was water dripping on the floor, and I was like, please no, not again. And I looked underneath and there was a nice crack that ran on the bottom from the front all the way to the back, and I was like, oh, here we go. So I had to take everything out again, drain it all, have a look at what had happened, and it turns out that this stand has 3 main supports. It's got one on the left hand side here that runs front to back, one in the middle, and one on the right hand side here. And this middle support was about a mil or two higher than these two side supports. So basically the tank was pivoting on that middle point and just cracked with that extra weight, I think, of the rocks and everything. It was just too much. So because I had this set up before and it didn't crack, and it's got foam between the bottom of the tank and the supports, but I guess just with that extra weight I put in, it wasn't, it was just too much, and that mil or two made the difference. So I ended up having to cut the silicon, cut out a glass panel from a lid that I had spare, and pretty much use this glass panel as like a, I guess a cap over the top of the crack. And then I filled it up, left it for a while to make sure that it wasn't leaking, and it's all good, which is great. And then in the, while that was happening as well, I decided to make things easier for my water changes, because with goldfish, they can eat a lot and poop a lot, and that means a lot of ammonia, potentially a lot of nitrates and things. So it's good to be able to do like a 50% water change-ish every week and a half. So I very carefully drilled a hole in the side of the aquarium about halfway down, and I added a valve with a hose connector on the outside, which means that for my water changes I just have to click the hose into the bottom of the valve, switch it on, run it out onto the lawn or something, and then once it's drained down to that to the right level, I can just plug it into a tap, turn it on, it fills back up again, and it's all good. So that's made things a lot easier. But yeah, as far as the plants that my fish didn't eat, I've got at the front here Hydrophila pinnatophyta green. At the back I've got another Hydrophila species, which is the Polysperma sunset variety. I've got some Vallisneria in the back, some Java fern, some various cryptocoryns down the bottom there, Rotala atria, which is really nice, and I have two species of plants in there that I can't remember for the life of me what they are. Maybe you guys, if you know what they are, can leave a comment, but they seem to be growing quite well. So as far as filtration goes, I ran a canister filter for a while, but I felt that it was a bit too strong a flow for my goldfish, because goldfish like still waters and just cruising around. So I switched to an air-driven system with two sponge filters, which definitely doesn't look as good, but what I really like about sponge filters is that they're super easy to maintain. Every week or two, just pull them out, squeeze them out a bit and put them back in. Obviously there's lots of surface agitation going on, so plenty of oxygen getting into the water, which is good for these bigger fish. And yeah, it's just made life that bit easier for me. It doesn't polish the water as well, so you might have noticed lots of particles kind of floating around. But for the goldfish, they're kind of messy fish anyway. You can see on the sand there's debris and stuff going on, but they absolutely love it. So I'm not too worried about having a tank that's crystal clear and spotless at all times. As long as the fish are happy and enjoying themselves, they're fine. The red cherry shrimp that I have in here have been breeding like crazy. The goldfish, I don't know if they've eaten any, but they are super slow and super derpy, so I don't think they've really managed to catch many of them. One thing that the goldfish absolutely love is this sand base, so they will just spend all day just foraging through there trying to find bits and pieces of food and whatever. So when I first set up the tank, I went with just a bare bottom tank because it's easier kind of to maintain, but in the end I thought, well, I thought it might be a bit boring for them, so I ended up putting in sand, and well, that's just all they do all day every day is just forage through the sand. So I think that was the right decision to make in the end. And as far as lighting goes, I bought two 20-watt LED floodlights off of eBay, which grow the plants really well. At first they were kind of too bright, so I was getting lots of algae, so I just added a couple strips of tape underneath just to dull, just to minimize the lighting a bit and kind of hone in the tank. And it seemed to work quite well, so that to the point I could kind of take those, like slowly take the tape off, and the plants seem to be absorbing most of that light and growing really well. And I leave the lights on for about 8 to 9 hours a day, and that seems to be a good balance between growing the plants but not growing the algae like crazy as well. So yeah, that should be pretty much it. I don't think I've left anything out. I hope you enjoyed this tank spotlight. These guys, Mo and Kubo, are my homies. They are a lot of fun. They have a lot of character, and people are naturally drawn to them when they come into the fish room, because they're just super derpy fish, super fun. If you like this video, I will be doing some more tank spotlights. I have about 5 or 6 other tanks that I kind of want to show you guys in the near future. So please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Stay tuned for more content in the future, and I'll see you on the next one.